So we're here with Jim Vieira in Ashfield, Massachusetts, checking out the hundreds, if not thousands, of giant reports that he's been discovering. You can see them on the wall behind us, and Jim's going to give us an outline of some of his research and just an understanding of who these giants really were, who kind of ruled ancient America, going way, way back into the distant past. And we're talking not just in Ohio, but all over America, from California to New England and even all around the world. And so there's really a mystery here that must be revealed. And Jim and people like Ross Hamilton and others are really starting to get to the bottom of this. So we're here with Jim Vieira in Ashfield, Massachusetts, in his giant office where all his research is up on his walls, and you can just see behind him the incredible amount of reports there are of giants in North America. So Jim, can you give us a little bit of background about how you got into studying these giant skeletons that have been discovered all over North America?
I'm a stonemason by trade, and I just study stonework in New England, and I was reading through town histories looking for accounts of pre-colonial stonework, and I ran across an account on page 78 of the Deerfield Town History of an 8-foot skeleton with double rows of teeth, reported by George Sheldon, who's a really well-known historian. So it got me interested, like, what does that mean, double rows of teeth? So we read through thousands of pages of town histories in Massachusetts and New England, and I found similar findings: 7'8" double rows of teeth in Middleborough, Mass. 7-foot double rows of teeth in Martha's Vineyard. Then I came to your conference several years ago and heard the speakers and heard you and heard Ross Hamilton talk about similar things with the same anatomic anomalies. So to date, myself and a researcher I'm working with have amassed over 1,100 accounts, like you see on the wall, oftentimes by university-trained anthropologists and archaeologists. I have accounts that go up to 1981 too. This isn't all, 1743, and it's a rather compelling and long list of evidence.
It is known from early descriptions of the Native Americans that a lot of them were tall. 7 foot, 6 foot, not unlikely. They may not be exactly what we call giants today, but they could still look pretty big, if you take a skeleton.
It would be if you were 5'2".
Yeah, exactly.
I've read of a number of different accounts, many from the 19th century, in the Bulletin of Ethnology, which is the journal produced by the Smithsonian, of the discovery of graves that supposedly contained giant bones. And I mean, these are seriously reported. These are written up by the academics, the scholars of the period.
So you've been looking at reports in New England, in Ohio, but are there accounts throughout North America, or is it just located in certain areas?
No, all around the country, and mentioning the same anatomic anomalies, like Catalina Island, California, and Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts, both have these accounts talking about giant skeletons being unearthed with double rows of teeth. And it's all around the country, and it's not just tall, skinny, 7, 8, 9 footers. These are massively proportioned individuals with skulls that can be fit over the head, jawbone so large they can fit over the face of a finder. And when you have hundreds of these accounts in an era of inefficient communication, it doesn't seem logical that they would know about these anatomic anomalies buried in obscure scientific journals and town histories. It just doesn't make any sense. It's not like they had the internet. And there is, the idea that these are hoaxes or mastodon bones doesn't hold any water. They are, there's pictures, as you see, there is scientists verifying these things, but there are just so many reports of similar findings that it's difficult to believe that they're hoaxes because there's no perceived gain.
So it seems like that with these giants that were discovered, a lot of them were discovered in the 1700s, 1800s, and even up to 30 years ago, I understand.
Yes.
And so with that, I mean, why is it not known about? Why is there a kind of, it seems very quiet, and only sort of alternative researchers are really getting this information out there? Have you got any reason for that?
There's this whole the philosophy of the Smithsonian. They led the charge essentially to marginalize all this information. John Wesley Powell at the turn of the century, 1880, 1890. He had ideas. He basically categorized Native Americans, in the barbaric, classification. He wanted, there was reasons to marginalize native civilizations and their accomplishments. That's the other part of the puzzle, that all around the United States there's earthen pyramids and geometric forms, hundreds of thousands of mounds. When the colonists showed up, we haven't really heard about that in school. Cahokia, 100-foot high, 14-acre base, things like that. And the accomplishments of Native Americans needed to be marginalized in order to portray them as nomadic and savage and steal their land. And when a conquering race comes in, Ross Hamilton makes this point in his book, Tradition of Giants, the conquering race will destroy the tombs and the burial places of the former heroes. And these burial places and mounds yielded treasures of pearls and copper and amazing artifacts that showed a really sophisticated civilization here. I'll cut to the chase. The skeletons in the Smithsonian's own reports are listed, giant skeletons, at least 10 accounts, over 7 foot tall, double rows of teeth, unusually thick skull, a giant axe found by one of them, but they were marginalized. And then the first director of physical anthropology, Alex Hrdlicka, I think is his name. He was a pre-Nazi racist who believed nobody was in the U.S. before 2000 BC, and he really put the kibosh on the whole giant skeleton thing. He, for whatever reason, they use cranial measurement to equate it with intelligence. So African Americans and Native Americans were portrayed as inferior to whites. The short of it is the beginnings of anthropology in the United States were really based on manifest destiny and racism, and it was really, really nauseating stuff. And that's when anthropologists study this stuff in college. A lot of the stuff is stricken from the textbooks, although it is right there in all the historical documents. A disinterested teenager could uncover 100 of these accounts in a weekend, quite frankly. And it's just revealing that the Smithsonian keeps getting these remains, and I have catalog numbers of them receiving giant remains in their own record. So, there's a compelling amount of evidence, to say the least.
I suspect that a lot of things were just not interpreted correctly at the beginning, and it's a lot more exciting to think of it as a giant. So some of it may be the way newspapers reported it, or the way that people misinterpreted when they found bones and mixed them up together, and maybe they looked bigger than they were.
So what evidence have you discovered in New England? I mean, how many giants and what kind of, what states are they in around the whole of this area?
Every state in New England, dozens of accounts. The museum in Deerfield, the Pecumtuck Museum, where Sheldon, the guy who reported the 8-foot skeleton with double rows of teeth, he helped found the museum. I found his archaeological scrapbook that had many accounts of giants pasted in it. In their own records, they had skeletons on display at the museum, and the thigh bone of an at least 8-foot skeleton listed in the Curiosity and Relics Handbook there. That's also at the museum. So they had on display. I spoke with the physical anthropologist who reinterred the remains. NAGPRA, Native American Graves Repatriation Protection Act. It basically makes it illegal to have giant skeleton remains on display now. And I have many first-hand accounts of people who saw 7, 8, and 9-foot skeletons at different museums, like the Winnemucca Museum, museums in Florida. The Maryland Academy of Science is known to have received 7 and 8-foot skeletons with unusual, bones as thick as a horse, and all these accounts. They get taken down. It's illegal to display them, and then the skeptic says, "Where are the skeletons?" It's a very frustrating dynamic, I've never seen a phenomenon where you have thousands of accounts describing the same curious and I would say bizarre phenomena. And it's not like the skeletons got up and ran around. It's like, here they are, they could be measured, remeasured, talked about, throngs of people would show up. They'd be in the New York Times. You'd have Warren K. Moorhead, the Dean of American Archaeology, reporting in 5 and 6 states, giants, huge teeth, massive jawbones, thick skulls, things that, this isn't just like this was tall, this is like an inch thick skull and things like that. So, it's the moral of the story is it's quite a compelling amount of evidence,